Well, today I thought I would tell you three Buddhist stories, and I'm keeping my notes here in case I forget, but there are three stories out of the book Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, which is a collection by Paul Reps of the most ancient Zen texts. They predate the Bible, so they're very old, and anyway, so I want to tell you three of those stories. The first one is about the Zen master, Hakyun. He was praised by his neighbors for being the most perfect, kind soul who never hurt anything, not even a fly. He was so perfect. And then one day, a young woman found out that she was pregnant, and she didn't want her parents to know who the father was, so she said it was Hakyun. And the family came with her to the monastery, and they were very angry, and they said, "You need to do what's right by this girl. This is your child." And all Hakyun said was, "Is that so?" And so he brought the young woman into his house, and he helped her raise the child. And then a while later, when the child was about 2, the young woman confessed to her parents that actually, no, it was a different young man who was the father of the child. And the family came back and they said, "Why did you pretend that this was yours?" And he said, "This is not your child. We're going to take it away." And he said, "Is that so?" And they took the child away. Later, people asked Hakyun why he was so yielding. And he said, "Because I'm a Zen master, and they taught me to just accept what's in front of me." The second is a story of a Zen master named Raikyan. He lived in the simplest of huts. He had very few things, and a thief came to steal all that he had, and he found nothing. And he encountered the thief, and he said, "I don't want you to leave here with nothing, so here, take my clothes." And so he sat naked outside and looked up at the moon and said, "Oh, I wish I could give him the moon. I've given him the moon because that is far more beautiful." And that is another example of how you could just not get tangled up in what you lost, but still find the beauty in life. And then the final one, the picture's on your cover of your order of service. This is a story that supposedly the Buddha told, but there's a man running from a tiger. He's completely frantic, running from the tiger, and he jumps onto a rope. And then he sees there's a tiger above, but there's also a tiger below him. And then these mice start eating the rope. And he notices a strawberry. And the story ends, and oh, that strawberry tasted so sweet. And the point is that even when we're feeling frantic, that we can still find the beauty in life, right? That we can still, if we stay awake, if we stay centered on life, that we can still find beauty no matter how much peril we're facing. And those are the three stories I want us to think about today when we think about beginner's mind. As many of you know, my younger sister died, Amy, on Monday. And although we were raised closely together, sharing gifts and outfits as if we were one person, for most of our early childhood, our paths diverged quite significantly as adults. Amy married at 19 years old and had 9 children and took a conservative homeschool, home church approach to life. And I married at 49, adopted 2 children, and became a liberal Unitarian Universalist minister. Not in that order. I was a minister first. Despite our early closeness, our conversations remained or became mostly superficial over time. Because my sister thought everything I said to her was an attempt to convince her of things she didn't believe, where I thought I was just being curious. Her passing at 59 years old leaves me grieving both for her and mostly for the conversations we will never, ever have. I bring this up because with this sort of unfinished business, grief and all the hardships of life can sometimes feel very weighty. However, the best we can do is acknowledge them and keep breathing and keep reaching for the sweet strawberry. In Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, we have those 3 stories in which individuals continue to try to taste the sweetness of life that they've been given, even in the face of loss and scrutiny and fear. Consider Master Hakyun, when falsely accused, stripping him of his reputation. He didn't wage war of words. He succumbed to bitterness. He just simply said, "Is that so?" And when the truth emerged and the child was taken away from him, he remained unchanged. He just said, "Is that so?" Hakyun did not try to stop the waves of rumor or societal judgment or even the loss of the child. He just swam through them with quiet compassion. In our day, DNA tests can hasten the knowledge of fatherhood. But still, nearly 13.6 million parents in the U.S. bear the weight of parenting alone. I have a friend who raised his and his girlfriend's children on his own when she left him. And when the children reached adulthood, my friend found out that they were not biologically his. By not knowing, he did so with a beginner's mind. His girlfriend left him and he just raised the kids. When he found out they were not biologically his, he responded much in the way Master Hakyun did. He just said, "Oh, okay, well, they're still mine. I raised them." I have another friend, though, who's been abandoned by her husband after having 3 children, 2 twins and a single daughter. And she is constantly frustrated by her ex-husband and what he doesn't pay and what he isn't participating in. How much easier it is to say we should accept the circumstances right in front of us than it is to do when burdened with the expectations of how life should have been. When we hold on to how life should have been, everything is harder. Letting go of how life should have been is sometimes even harder. We set goals, and if we don't reach them, we must reconsider other ways to do things. You know, even at stewardship time. Now, first I should say, lots of people misunderstand what stewardship time is. They see it as, oh gosh, this is coming around again. Oh, how could it be so soon? But what our pledge drive is really just an opportunity for us to set our budget, right? We set goals and we try to reach them. But even if we don't meet our goals, it gives us an opportunity to reevaluate. If we could look at it with a beginner's mind, there would be no stress in our stewardship campaign, ever. Because we know we will always have enough to do what we can do, right? What we have is what we have. Doesn't have to reach a certain bar. So I'm proud of Jessica and David for not doing a thermometer. Because it honestly doesn't matter where we reach. It matters that what we have we use for the benefit of this community and we make it better. And we will make it work. So much easier when we can face every obstacle with a beginner's mind. Then there's Raikkonen, who, after being robbed of everything, including his clothes, sat naked under the sky and just wished he could give the moon to the thief. He understood that our true essence can never be stolen from us. Ever. I'm not going away if you have to cut my salary. I don't want you to cut my salary, but I'm not going away if you have to cut my salary. Does that make sense? If you leave me naked here, I still have the beauty of this community. That's exactly what happened to Raikkonen. If we can approach even the theft of our dreams with a beginner's mind, it can teach us something. Can offer us a new way of looking at things. If we approached our budget each year with a beginner's mind, we would realize that whatever we have to work with is enough. Another example is that on Tuesday, I came to work at 6:30 in the morning to print some documents that Jenny needed for the RMV. But when I tried to go home, I couldn't start my car, which is why it looks like I've been at work all week long in my minister's. She ended up picking me up, and then I took another of our cars to the dentist's office where I sat for 30 minutes before the receptionist realized I wasn't supposed to be there. I was mad. But that's when I started to finally cry. To be honest, at the time, I didn't handle it well, but in retrospect, I'm thankful because that kerfuffle was what I needed to feel the loss of my sister and to recognize that I actually was also on the anniversary, the 35th anniversary of my mother's death. When we face loss, theft, or shortfalls of any kind, it's so much easier if we can take a breath and approach them with a beginner's mind. And when we can't do that, we can do what I did at the dentist's office, which is after I used an expletive and walked out, I took a breath in my car, and then I went back in and I said, what day am I supposed to be here? I'm so sorry of the way I behaved. As I reflected on my broken car and the endless waiting, they offered me a window into my grief. And my heart gave my heart some spaciousness I wouldn't have already known I needed. And this is where we come to the man dangling between two tigers with his lifeline being gnawed on by mice. In that moment of ultimate precarity, he doesn't freeze in panic, nor does he deny his danger, but he reaches out and plucks the strawberry and tastes its sweetness, with a mind totally focused on the beauty of the moment. How much better our lives will be when we can feel the full range of our emotions and still taste life's sweetness. Last weekend of my installation was an amazing, beautiful event. And we welcomed 25 new members, actually 26, because Matt signed the fellowship book.
I got you.
So now we've hit our goal of 170 members that we planned for this year. Now 10 more of you have to sign it next year so that we can, especially you friends, so that we can hit our goal for next year. But that's amazing, right? Yes. But at the same time, my father couldn't be here because my sister was dying. If I had let the cloud of my father not being here, or my sister's dying, overshadow the beauty and the sweetness of the installation, I might have missed the amazing number of people who showed up to volunteer. Amazing. I might have missed my older sister, my cousin, and both my daughters being home. What a magnificent weekend. The sadness of the loss of my sister Amy's life in the midst of it was just a reminder of how vitally important it is to awaken to every single moment of our lives and to taste their sweetness in every waking moment. We often mistake calmness for a lack of movement, a life devoid of conflict, or quiet room where nothing goes wrong, to be meditation or peacefulness. We think we will find peace only when the grief ends, when the political climate shifts, when our family dynamics are finally resolved. But as Suzuki reminds us, true calmness is not found in inactivity. Peace is found in activity itself, allowing each moment to be our teacher. As Jon Kabat-Zinn captures this perfectly, you cannot stop the waves, but you can surf. This main message is that approaching life with a beginner's mind gives us an equanimity in the face of struggle, allowing us to respond to life's uncertainties without turning away. My sister Amy's life and death, and the conversations left unspoken, and the fractures in our family are massive waves, and I cannot stop them or rewrite the past, and the grief is real. But what also is true is that Amy reminded me of surfing when I visited her last Monday. Her fundamentalist faith remained intact, and she did go out of her way to tell me I was going to hell. But when I told her about Thich Nhat Hanh's version of the wave, you know, how the wave is like our life, and it crests. When it's a wave, it thinks it's so beautiful and what a great life this is, but then eventually it returns, and it's sad because it's no longer a wave, but in reality, it's always water. When I told her that, she then that's when she decided to tell me I was going to hell. But then she said, in the next breath, she said that she actually told her 9 children that God is the ocean and we learn to surf. Even amidst every loss, there is a space for connection and awe if we just accept it as a beginner. Leave all those past judgments behind and take a breath. Ultimately, both beginner's mind and faith-based surfing invite us to recognize that our challenges, like waves, are not enemies to be defeated, but realities to be inhabited with curiosity and openness and compassion. And this brings us to Mary Oliver's poem. She writes that doing her work is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. Noticing that standing still is not laziness, it is profound active attentiveness. It is choosing to look at the world with all its torn coats and old boots and imperfect realities, and still finding the quickening east and the blue plums. Loving the world that includes death and estrangement and unanswerable questions requires us to keep our minds on what matters right in front of us. Like the lilies of the valley, like the hands around this meeting house. What matters is that we do not allow the tigers of our past or our future rob us from the strawberry right in front of us. My friends, the vines we hang from are thin, and the mice of time are always nibbling. We cannot control the ocean currents, nor can we force the people we love to see the world through our eyes. We can breathe. We can show up for the activity of living. Let us grab our surfboards and meet the waves of the beginner's mind. One that is empty of expectations and full of wonder.
Good morning, dear ones. I'm a little wobbly today, so Molly gave me a chair. Suzuki, the Japanese philosopher who first started a beginner's mind, of course used the Japanese word Shoshin, and that's the name of my poem today. I speak about different kinds of minds in my poem, but we're still talking about beginner's mind. Shoshin. The epigraph is from Revelations 21, verse 25. Behold, I make all things new. You seek beginner's mind. Please don't jump out of bed the minute your eyelids flutter. In slower motion, you may enjoy some of the best moments of your day. A dreamer's mind is the gift of the night. Already unfurling a poem, giving the pen and paper on my night table a reason to be. Perennial child's mind, just as curious, just as questioning, just as present, without all the preconceptions that build brick and mortar walls around possibilities. I always choose the luminous child's mind. I adorn my days in healing shades of pink. To solve a wobbly walk, Walter Mitty and I balance on a chalked line and become tightrope walkers. My vision fades. I close myself in the hall closet, explore through touch how it might be to walk in Helen Keller's shoes. And the transformative power of ballerina brain allows me to dance again, limber, liquid, in another time and space, flowing into muscle memory. My body still knows how to twirl and leap. My hands as graceful as monarch butterflies.